Well, this July 4th is a little extra special, of course. We celebrate our 250th year of American independence, and it is worth celebrating that moment, as it is every year, but especially this year. But between the hot dogs and the parades and the fireworks that we're going to all be celebrating and enjoying over the next couple of days, we started thinking about, how many of our favorite holiday traditions have a pretty natural financial parallel. And so that's what we're going to do today, finding parallels between Independence Day and the comparisons to the financial world. Some of them might surprise you, and some of them are going to be pretty helpful. So I think you'll enjoy this. We'll have a little fun celebrating America's birthday and learning about the financial world coming up next. All right, Ryan, I don't have my hot dog prop, and we were not allowed to shoot off actual fireworks here in the studio, unfortunately, to try and celebrate the July 4th this year. We'll have to go outside for that later on. But in any event, happy 4th of July to you as we tape this right before the holiday. And this is a big one, 250 years of American independence, my friend.
Well, not only the 250 years of American independence, how great our country is, but the 4th of July has always been my favorite holiday. And the reason why is there's no drama. It seems like Thanksgiving, Christmas, family gets together, somebody's in a fight, people start talking politics. I mean, who knows? It's always drama. Whereas I feel like 4th of July has just always been grilling out, or you're at the beach, or there's no drama. It's just good old fun. I can smell the grill. I can smell the hot dogs and brats on the grill right now, maybe drinking some beers, and it just seems awesome. All of that just sounds awesome to me. So the 4th of July has always been my favorite holiday.
Yeah, it's a great one. If you're not having a good time on the 4th of July, it's kind of like, what's wrong with you? There's no reason to not just be having a good time, enjoying time with family, friends, or even grill and shoot off fireworks by yourself. That's the beauty of the holiday. American independence, freedom, do what you want.
I was just thinking about, I have my wife's whole family's coming to spend the 4th with us. So getting ready for that. And I'm sure it'll be a great time, but I don't know why I was suddenly just transitioned to thinking about all those firework videos of people blowing their hands off or fireworks shooting off in the wrong direction. Just all the dumb things that happen over the 4th as well.
So I guess there is one reason to not have a good time on the 4th of July, and that's if you have mishaps with fireworks. So yes, avoid that one part, please. Are you going to make a comparison here coming up here in a minute to the parallels of injuring yourself?
I don't know where you're going with this podcast, but I'm suddenly thinking about life happening and all the bad things that can happen in that trip to urgent care or the emergency room on 4th of July weekend.
My grandfather in his mid 90s now, he had a close call with a firework. It kind of went down his shirt right after he'd lit it, fumbled it, and it went in the air and went down his shirt, and the firecracker went off right up against his chest. So he's got some scars. He showed us many years ago on his chest from that firework going off. So it does happen. Be safe. Be careful with your fireworks, folks, please.
Well, if you've ever shot off a bottle rocket, or you're ever a teenage boy, you've probably had, or what are those black cats, I guess, are the other ones? I mean,
sure. Yeah.
We all have stories. We'll just leave it at that. We all have our own stories. Yeah.
Boys will be boys in those cases, that's for sure. Since we're talking about fireworks first, I was going to bring this one up later, but let's just start there. Fireworks, I got to think that the easy comparison here is market volatility. Fireworks give us a loud entrance. They light up the sky. There's a little bit of drama and suspense built in there. It's exciting, but you brought up the dangerous element of it blowing up maybe in your hand, or, could leave some damage if we're not careful with them. Sounds a lot like the market. Fun to be in, but can be dangerous if we're not careful.
Yeah, the market volatility is what gives us return, but we got to make sure we're doing it in the right way. So fireworks are, both exciting and dangerous, but we need to be safe lighting them off. We need to be calculated in how we do it, or have a plan. And I think about this with the market as well. We can't control the market, but we can definitely control our exposure to it. And it makes me think about having a system where we're diversified and have that exposure to the market, where that volatility is working for us, but not speculating and gambling by picking the latest great stock and leveraging our wealth, hoping one company might take off. And let's not have the get rich quick plan. Let's have a system in place that's diversified, that's going to work over the long term. So don't speculate and gamble with your money. Don't stock pick.
Yeah, the 4th of July isn't the 4th of July if you don't have fireworks. At least it certainly seems that way for many of us. And it's kind of like that with a plan and a portfolio. Like you don't have a plan if you're not in the market, if you're not participating, and having some of that volatility is just part of doing it, just like the fireworks are part of, the 4th of July. So I think that's a big one.
Yeah, I hope that transitions. That's what came up for me. So
yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Walter throws all this stuff at me, and then I got to figure out how to relate it to finance.
I know. I try to throw you curveballs every once in a while.
I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I like hot dogs. Cool.
All right, well, hot dogs is our next one. So you must have peeked on the sheet. So hot dogs and emergency funds is where we see the comparison maybe merging here, but feel free to disagree. I think no matter how elaborate your spread gets on July 4th, if you've got a bunch of people doing a potluck and bringing stuff in, you kind of got to have some hot dogs on the grill when it comes to the 4th of July. You can't not like a hot dog because they always taste good. And so you don't get any surprises. It's kind of how your emergency fund should be, right? Stable, predictable.
What I'm going to go with, first of all, I hot dogs are great, but I prefer a brat. I want a nice brat with some mustard on it. That sounds good to me. But emergency funds. I ask this all the time. Like, people know to save for retirement. They have all this money in their 401k. But their liquidity in case life happens in many cases is like zero. I'm like, where's it all at? Where did it go? And I don't think a lot of people realize that they can have money invested in the market and it still be liquid. So what I see, mistakes that I see a lot for life and being prepared for life, is having that emergency fund, but still having that emergency fund that's working for you. If it's sitting in a savings account or a high yield savings account, you're basically going broke safely. You're not even keeping up with inflation. And of course, we allocate funds for an emergency fund very differently than we would a 401k. But you definitely have to build that liquidity and that liquid stability. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And I don't care if you're putting $500 a month in or $5,000, but you need to automate that and build it over time too, because life will happen. And how much nicer is it when you have that unexpected car repair, that medical bill, that home expense shows up, and you relate this to all the things that could happen on the 4th of July, whatever happened where life happened and it created that bill,
You can't stop thinking about people injuring themselves on the 4th of July.
Life happens, and how much
this
easier
must be the dad in you speaking, like be careful with those fireworks.
I have kids at my house now, and all I can think about is the liability of having all these kids at my house.
I knew it was coming from someplace.
Or like a boat. What does that stand for? Break out another 1,000, because what's going to, what's going to happen to it over 4th of July weekend? Somebody's going to do something dumb, or they're going to, lose the tube, and that's going to cost a bunch of money. I mean, fireworks catches the house on fire, or I recently had a client that had to reach out for a bunch of money, and it was because the septic system broke, and I'm like, oh man, like I could think of 1,000 different things I would rather spend money on than fixing this septic in your house. Like, but I guess shit happens, right?
As someone who has replaced a septic tank in their house before,
no pun intended there, but life happens, and it's much, much less stressful if you've already planned for and put money away. So I'm a big proponent of, I call it forced discipline, having an individual account or a joint account, putting money in there every single month. So when life happens, you already have it sitting there ready to go.
Attention aviators, when you've spent years in the cockpit managing the complexities of flight, isn't it time you navigated your retirement with the same precision? Introducing RetirePilots.com. Right at your touchdown zone on our homepage, there's a beacon flashing, "Get my free toolkit." Click that and you'll be cleared for a direct route to Ryan's retirement toolkit, tailor-made for pilots like you. Inside, you'll find 2 of his important works, The Pilot's Advisor and Pilots Retire Early. Between these 2 books, you can decipher the 9 critical decisions when retiring before 65 and discover the 7 lessons to help pilots land safely in retirement. But that's not all. This toolkit is packed with altitude-high value, including extras to get your retirement plans off the runway and light the afterburners on your 401k. Vector on over to retirepilots.com to grab your toolkit and let's embark on this journey together. Yeah, great points. We can't talk about the 4th of July without talking about parades. Now, I'm not much of a parade guy. If I never went to another parade, I'd be just fine in life. But I get them, and I understand why some people love them. And especially the small town parades, I think those are the best, where the community comes together and you're seeing the local high school teams, the local firemen coming through, and your neighbors are all lining the street. I get that community aspect of it all, and helps us I think the local ones especially, help us recalibrate a little bit into thinking about what's important, connecting locally, trying to get closer to the people that are around you and kind of in your everyday life. So I enjoy the spirit of them, at least.
Yeah, I'm not a big parade person myself either, but it makes me think of my childhood, decorating your bike and then riding in the parade. Or, I grew up in a small town, small city where, we all went to the parade for the 4th of July. And then I'm thinking about the different seasons of life per se, like from being that kid that decorated to the bicycle, to maybe when you're older, you might be the adult that decorated the golf cart. Right. And then I'm thinking about like the old VFW or the old soldiers marching in the parade, and they're in their 60s and 70s. So there's
those videos from the villages with all the golf carts all lined up for the parade. Yeah.
Yeah, so the seasons of life, and then the things that are important to you change. I mean, when you're a kid, you wanted to have enough money to go buy baseball cards. I remember cutting grass so that I could go buy baseball cards or go buy my next baseball mitt. And as you get older, those priorities really change, and it goes beyond making sure I'm taken care of. Then you start having kids, and you want to make sure that your family's taken care of, and then you want to make sure that you're saving for college for your kids. And then after that, it's like, hey, I think I'm good to go, or I've saved for my wife and I to be secure in retirement. But how can I pass on a legacy? How can I do some legacy planning and make sure that my kids are not only set for life, but can we pass on something to my kids' kids? We're can we create generational wealth? All of it takes planning. And I think when you start thinking about 4th of July and family and the different generations, it makes me think about all those things. Yeah. And all those things require a plan. And it's not hard to have it. Yeah. It's just you need time to plan and allocate for it. And the time factor and putting money away for all these different things on a monthly basis, in my opinion, is the key. You'll thank me later. You'll thank me later.
Love it. Well, all of these have been fun, talking about fireworks, parades, hot dogs, all that traditional stuff. But the most important part that we should never overlook, of course, is the freedom aspect of this. And this year being, again, 250 years of the freedom that we hold so dear in this country. But it's a milestone that we should always remember took generations of sacrifice, effort to establish and to protect then continuously. And I feel like financial independence is basically the same thing. It's not something that typically happens overnight. You scrape and you claw and you learn and you put all of your energy into trying to become more and more financially independent. And with that great independence comes responsibility, just like we have in the country. And so this one cuts a lot of different ways, and I think is a really important one to end on today.
Yeah, and it makes me just want to share my situation. I mean, I grew up very poor. My parents were divorced. We lived paycheck to paycheck. My dad was off working. I was cutting grass, trying to make ends meet. And that's kind of how I developed a love for finances, is because I didn't want to live that way anymore. And so through my education, everything was focused on learning about money and how it works, so I didn't have to live like that. And I think how you grow up kind of defines a lot about how you view money. And I was very disciplined from a very young age about putting money away and being consistently saving and saving. And I know my wife hated it when we were young lieutenants in the Air Force, because I sat her down and talked about a budget, and she wanted to live life right then. And I feel like we're on the other side of that now, where we were so responsible while we were in our 20s and 30s that now we're in our 40s, and it feels like we're ahead of the game. And I feel like she thanks me now. We've been married for 20 some years, and no different than the airlines. We know what everybody makes, but there's such a huge drastic difference in individuals and their financial stability. And there's no magic pill. It just takes discipline, and it takes time and sacrifice. No different than how we have this country. Lots of sacrifice, lots of things that people did over time. And I wish I could just help everybody to be disciplined, to put money away every single month, so that as they get older, they're not feeling that massive financial stress, because there's a way to not have that stress. And I had a wise man once tell me that, 99.5% in life, the things that happen, you can fix it with some money. But that 5% that you can't fix with money is probably the most important thing. And that falls under family and decisions and stuff. So, but it's pretty powerful advice.
Yeah, very much so. Well, we have great freedoms in this country, and one of those is the pursuit of financial freedom. And we want to help as many people as possible achieve that. And so if that's something that you are interested in, if you're working toward that financial independence and you need some help getting there or making sure that you're on the right track to eventually get there, that's what Ryan is basically doing each and every day with his clients, with pilots all across the country, helping them discover that financial independence, more confidence in their financial future, all of those kinds of things. If you're looking for a great starting point, check the link in the description of today's show. You can order the Retirement Toolkit, specifically built for pilots who are interested in learning more about retirement and starting to take action. It's going to have Ryan's book. It's packed with other great resources, guides, and helpful information, and it qualifies you for that free portfolio analysis that we mention from time to time here on the show, where you get to meet one-on-one with Ryan, see where you are right now, and then start setting that game plan for accomplishing those financial goals that you've got. So check that out. Again, it's in the description of today's show. Just click on the link, or you can go to retirepilots.com. Ryan, happy 4th to you, my friend, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good, Walter. Enjoy the 4th of July with your family. Let somebody else light off the fireworks. And like I told you earlier, I need something more than hot dogs. I want some brats on that grill.
I hear you on the brats. I'm not going to turn down a hot dog, but if there's a brat there, well, I'm with you on that idea. So
absolutely,
we'll let somebody else handle the fireworks, so you and I can keep our pretty faces, so we can stay on YouTube. And and we'll see everybody next time. Enjoy the 4th. Be safe with it, but have a blast and celebrate independence and freedom. We'll talk to you next time here on the Pilot's Advisor.
Happy 4th of July.
This episode is for educational purposes only and is not individualized investment advice. The Pilot's Advisor LLC is an SEC registered investment advisor. Registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal.